Hello, welcome back. This is Dr. Natalie Lenore Blackman coming back to you with This Magnetic Heart, spring season number 2, Abiding in the Secret Place. And we are currently in the Passover week. We celebrated our Seder this evening. And Passover, as we discussed in the last session, is about transitioning from our old season into our new season and leaving the past behind us, or what may have held us back in the last season, or what could have been a stumbling block for us in the last season, and letting go of it before we enter into our new season. We also talked about the importance of awakening the liver and the gallbladder so that the yang can exit out of the body. And a client reminded me yesterday that this is the time for us to start our hot lemon water in the morning. So a great time to begin doing that. Another thing that we can do as well is drink nettle tea in the evening, and that helps to prevent us from having issues with the pollen. And that is a very old remedy that works amazingly well. So we can incorporate those two simple practices into our daily routine for the spring, and we will see a world of difference. Okay? And I wanted to get on here tonight and just talk a little bit more about Passover because it's very special to me. It's something I look forward to all year. I usually say I'm crawling to Passover. And so what that means is that we feel like we get a great start on the year, right? So in my mind, because I've been following the Hebrew calendar now for close to a decade, my beginning of the year is not January 1. It is always the 1st of Nisan. And so I get super excited and I have this great beginning of my year. And it kind of seems like as the year goes on, it gets a little more difficult, or maybe I run into different battles, or maybe there's some things that I had to face that I wasn't expecting, especially like what I dealt with in last season. And so knowing, right, that we get to begin again, or as I call it, the reset button in spring, at the season of Passover, or the 1st of Nisan, which usually Passover comes shortly after. I always feel like I'm crawling to that finish line, okay, or to the new beginning of that year. And so it has definitely felt like that this year. 2023 has definitely been better than 2021 and 2022, but it has come with some battles that I have never fought before in my life. And so some new things, some new traumas that I'm having to deal with. And thank goodness they are being resolved, okay? And especially one of those battles was resolved just yesterday, which is Good Friday, but also during Passover. And so I wanted to talk about transforming, okay? And what this channel is about, as we've talked about before, it's about breaking cycles, cycles that may have been passed down to us, cycles that we might have put ourselves in. Those can be belief expectation cycles. So as I mentioned, 2021 and 2022 were very difficult years, and that can set you up for having a difficult 2023. So if your belief expectation cycle is, what is this year going to bring, right? I mean, that doesn't sound very hopeful, does it? But we can't help but have a perspective like that if we've been through trauma. That's natural, okay? That is a natural human response. It's not wrong to have that response, but it's not going to get us to where we need to go, okay? So we begin to understand transformation and how to break out of these cycles. And a simple way to break out of these cycles is to begin understanding that each month brings with it new gifts, new revelation, okay? And as we talked about with the seasons on the Chinese medicine calendar, we can open up new organs and remove junk out of our soil that could put us in that negative belief expectation cycle. And I heard a great quote the other day, and the quote said, if you are not transforming, you're conforming, okay? When I was in vet school, my senior dissertation that I did was called Nonconformity, How to Think Outside the Box. Because I spent 4 years observing my class and my colleagues and how they actually just regurgitated everything that they were fed. There was no processing in their brain on interpreting the information they had been given. They just took it in and spit it out. And that's extremely common with our medical system. That's why it's a broken system. It is how children are now taught in schools. They do not want any critical thinking because critical thinkers can transform the world. Think about that, right? And so we're living in a time where they want uniformity, okay? Not unity, uniformity. And uniformity means everything is the same. We don't want to be the same. None of us were meant to be the same. God created each of us with a different purpose. And we each have different giftings, and we all need each other to bring forth those giftings. And so I want you to think about that for a moment. If you're not transforming, you're conforming. What are you conforming to? Okay? Are you conforming to the things that maybe your parents dealt with? Maybe your grandparents dealt with? Maybe just the things in your workplace, in school, your neighbors. We don't want to conform. We want to transform. That's what this entire channel is about, right? I also talked about it's about transforming ourselves from the inside out, right? Preventing, reversing disease. We can't do that if we conform to this world, because this world is set up on a sick care system. It's set up to put you into poor health. Okay, so we have to figure out the ways around that. And this is the season to begin that journey. Isn't that exciting? So there's a scripture, Romans 12:2, I believe. I don't have it pulled up. But it says, be ye not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God, right? We talked about that abiding in the secret place is finding that perfect will of God. And in that perfect will, we are protected. We are shielded from the dangers that may lurk. We're in the shadow of the valley of death because we're under the shadow of the Almighty. So the death doesn't touch us, right? We're in its shadow. Okay, we may see it, right? We may experience it around us. But when we're in that perfect place, that perfect will, it can't touch us, okay? So the transformation, right? be not conformed, but be transformed by the renewing of our mind. We've talked about before how we renew our mind, right? Like God's written word is designed to renew our mind. It actually changes the neurotransmitters in our brain. And let me tell you something. If there's one thing I've noticed about getting older, is my neurotransmitters, okay? I live on a dopamine homeopathic formula. I mean, I need dopamine in my brain. Otherwise, I realize I start being critical, just critical and irritated really easy. That also comes from our hormones. As our hormones dip as we get older, so do the neurotransmitters. But we don't have to accept that, okay? That is why I am doing this channel now, is so we can figure out how to prevent the progression of disease without altering our mind or our body chemically, okay? Homeopathic is energy medicine, so I'm not altering it chemically, but I am working on ways that I can see my dopamine levels increase. I can see my hormones increasing without supplementation. That's actually a goal of mine. I'm a holistic veterinarian. I've been on herbs since I was 5 years old. My dad started giving me herbs and supplements when I was a little bitty girl. I am dependent on supplements, and I always have been, but I don't want to be dependent on anything. And that's what we're working on in this channel. And I'm not going to walk you through anything that I'm not walking through myself, because that's what this is for. It's for us to walk out together. And each year and each season, we should begin to see changes, and we should begin to see growth, and we should begin to see that garden producing a fruitful harvest that we talked about, right? I'm constantly checking my garden. I'm checking my harvest. If I'm not seeing the fruits of the Spirit, I get upset, because I know that there's just stuff in me that I've got to get out, and I have to have time to do that. It's an important practice. I've mentioned many times that we're in this self-care kick, right? But self is the one thing we don't want to care about, okay? We want to lay self down, but we want to work on our soul, okay? We want to take time and spend time working on our soul or our soil, and that's very important, okay? So during this Passover week, we have 4 more days of Passover, maybe 5. It ends on Thursday. Today's Saturday. So we have a few more days of Passover. Be thinking what you want transformed. Be thinking of maybe the dreams that you've had that you've let go of, that you didn't ever think that you would do. I've been doing that lately. God's been bringing up stuff to me, passions that I've had that I've laid down because I have a career and I have to work really hard. But he's been bringing that up to me again and being like, no, you're going to still be able to fulfill those dreams. A creative outlet. Okay? Think about that. Have you conformed to your daily routine? Have you conformed to a life that you've just been living for 5 and 10, 15 years. Or maybe have you just conformed since 2020? I know I've conformed to a lot of things since 2020. Negativity as well. But think about that. What have you conformed to? What do you want to transform to? What is it that you want? What are the desires that you know God put in your heart and they've never been fulfilled? It's not too late. There is something called Kairos time, which is divine time. God can redeem the time. He can turn back the clock. We're learning these things in this channel, and we're learning to trust our Creator. We're also learning to understand that we shouldn't be viewing ourselves as deteriorating or the ending of anything. And I mean the ending of anything. We should be thinking of transformation, regeneration, restoration, redemption. Think of all those wonderful things. Renewal, reversing. We've got a lot that we can look forward to. But we're going to have to transform the mind, not conform. We've got to transform. I started a blog, I've mentioned this before, but a long time ago, and I haven't kept up with it, but it's called The Age of Transfiguration. Transformation leads to transfiguration. And transfiguration is where we continue to bring our spirit into alignment with what it was originally created to be, which is to be in the image of God and to be as Jesus was. There's a scripture that says to be as He was on this earth. That's what we want to do. We want to reach that place where we walk in shalom, where we're not negative, where we're not in a belief expectation cycle that I can't imagine what this year is going to bring, right? We don't want to be like that. We want to get the junk out of us from the last season that would hold us back. Okay, so let's use the rest of Passover to begin to think about transforming our mind, our will, our emotions, our spirit, our body. We want to be transformed. We don't want to be conformed. We want unity, not uniformity. We want to bring out of us the gift that the Creator put inside of us to produce. This is the season. Oh, yes. I just heard this in my spirit. Just as the yang is trying to come out in the spring, let our purpose come out in the spring. Isn't that good? Yang is trying to rise. It's been anchored in the kidneys, okay? And in the kidney season, we reflect. We do introspection. We're deep inside in those kidney season. Now we let the yang come out so it can accomplish what it needs to accomplish in the summer. That's the goal in Chinese medicine, okay? Because summer we're outward and we're external and we're working outside, maybe in the garden, or we're doing activities. So let's begin to think about our purpose coming forward, up and out, so that in the beginning of summer we're ready to bring about our purpose or step into it. That's one of the fruits of the garden that we're trying to produce. We can't do that if we're negative, bitter, resentful, angry, frustrated, tired, weak, like all of the things that we deal with, exhaustion. One thing that we say in veterinary medicine is you reach a point where you get what's called compassion fatigue. We don't want to have compassion fatigue. We don't want to be one more thing, right? Just one more thing. I say that sometimes. If it's just one more thing, I don't know if I can take it. We don't want to be there, okay? We want to begin to produce this harvest, our purpose. So let's plan to begin our morning with warm or hot lemon water. Our evening with stinging nettle tea. Begin our liver detox, our cleanse. As I mentioned before, I've got some liver detoxes that I ordered for any clients that are interested. And we can begin detoxing from last season in our body, in our mind, in our soul, in our soil. And just sitting with the Father, asking Him to begin to reveal those things to us. What we need to let go from last season. What's going to trip us up in this season. And then let's start asking, what is it in me? What is the purpose in me that you want to bring forth? As yang comes out of my body, what is it? It could be anything. It could be writing a book. It could be doing a project. It could be changing careers. I mean, it could be something big. It could be starting a family. You know, so it could be helping someone. Maybe God's put someone on your heart to help. It could be teaching something. You know, ask Him. Ask Him to bring that back to you. And then ask Him to put you on the path of transformation. If we're not transforming, we're conforming. I have been saying that every day since I heard it. I regret not naming my dissertation that, but regardless, we can begin now saying that every day. If I'm not transforming, I'm conforming. The Creator made us dynamic. He made everything in our atmosphere. Everything in creation is moving. Quantum physics proves it. Everything is dynamic. We are not static, and we're not meant to be static. We're meant to transform. And as we transform the world around us. And as we transform the world around us, or as we bring up that fruitful garden we talked about, which are all the fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, meekness. As we do that, heaven invades earth. And that would be the one thing Jesus asked us to pray every day. That His will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Okay, I hope this gives you something to think about for Passover. I hope you begin to see your purpose rising up and out of you like yang, getting ready for summer, getting ready to bring forth something that the world needs. If this blessed you, hit the like button, please, and subscribe or share. One day, we'll see this page grow. I don't know. I'm still on 60 followers on my business, and I've been doing that for close to a decade. So, I hope you have a great night.